The Noles are on the field getting set for 2024. It's springtime. That means individuals are working on their individual techniques and skills, trying to get set for fall camp. We got Logan Robinson here from Nole Game Day to break down the defense for us. Logan and I get together every spring, every summer to break down FSU personnel. Love the breakdowns, Logan. This is where I learn more about FSU, even though we've got our Wednesday night show. Us at 6 p.m. Eastern, Logan and the guys at 7 p.m. Eastern time.
They can't get rid of us, Mark. They just can't get rid of us.
And just keep rolling.
It's nonstop. Well, the FSU fans, they eat it up, and I don't blame them after, last season, the run that FSU made, and then going into 2024, there's still a lot of excitement. This is now a 12-team college football playoff, ladies and gentlemen. So don't think Florida State's out of this to make another college football playoff run. And actually, I shouldn't say make another one. They didn't get invited, but actually make a college football playoff run as they were expecting to make this last year. But nonetheless, though, as we talk defense, this team's got to step up to the plate, in my opinion. And there's some pieces that have to also step up this spring camp, because there's going to be some guys that were in the 2 deep last year that are expected to start this 2024 season.
Logan, I know the heart and soul is inside at that D tackle position, but I just want to make this comment. Maybe we'll start outside. 2 years ago, it was a big deal when Mike Norvell was able to get Jermaine Johnson to come in from the SEC and take over that spot, become a real force. Of course, he parlayed that into a high NFL draft spot with the Jets. Last year, it was Jared Verse. He comes in, plays 2 seasons, and gets the job done and becomes that force. Is Patrick Payton possibly the next guy to kind of say, this is my defense, I'm the leader?
The one thing that stands out to me with Pat Payne is that he would be in-house developed, guy that was recruited originally from Florida State, whereas, like you're saying, Jared Verse, Jermaine Johnson came over through that transfer portal, so you kind of already had a taste of what they had and everything. For Pat Payne, this would be really impressive to see if he can make a big jump and being that DE1, I would say, on that side of the ball. Pat Payton is someone that put on some significant pounds too before this spring camp too, about 15 pounds heavier now, which I think all FSU fans should like, just depending on how he can move with that weight. Just some early things that I've been hearing, he's been moving nicely with that. I want to see still some more days with some pads on and everything, just because we're on the line. This isn't just patty cake over there. When you got the pads on and you're in the trenches, things get a little bit different. So I want to see how his hands are moving. That's something that he's going to have to work on too. Getting into the pass rush, getting to that quarterback is something that if you're going to be of that magnitude of a Jared Verse or of a Jermaine Johnson, you got to get to that quarterback, and you got to get those sacks, get those TFLs. And, he's made plays all throughout his career for FSU, but now he is that guy. And, he's going to take on a leadership role too from this spring, from what we heard from Mike Norvell. So you're expecting a lot from Pat Payton. I just don't know if I'm projecting him in that realm of, a Jared Verse and that Jermaine Johnson. That's hard to do for anybody. Jared Verse is going to be a top 15 pick. And, what Jermaine Johnson was too in the first round. These are top tier first round defensive ends. If they can get, I think, some solid improvement and development out of Pat Payton, just adding on some extra, adding on a little bit more of, like I said, that pass rush technique into the quarterback more. I think you do see Pat Payton being a pivotal factor and being that top dog on the defensive side for Florida State in 2024. But we've got to see that improvement in spring. And, I want to see how he's working with this new sizes added on. 15 pounds, that's a lot of weight for a defensive end to work with.
So also with the end position, we've got another legacy coming back to the fold with Marvin Jones Jr.
Yeah.
Of course, his dad was pretty darn good. And so between Jones and everybody else vying for the edge spots, how does that room look?
I really like Marvin Jones Jr. He's came in body-wise with Coach Storms, Florida State strength and conditioning coach. He's done a really good job coming in. He's not the most talkative guy like you had with, Jared Verse or even Jermaine Johnson, but he dials in and he gets after it. I'm interested to see, I think more of that competition is going to be between Marvin Jones Jr., Tomiwa Derwawe. I'm going to screw up a lot of names here because there's so many. Sione Lolohea.
Well
Shout out to
done.
those two guys. If I've messed up the name, call me out the next time I'm at a practice. Maybe nail me. Just let me know I said it wrong. But no, those two guys, those two transfers, Oregon State from Sione, and then here I go again. I got to say it again. But Tommy Wah, hopefully I'm saying that right, from West Virginia. Those are two guys that are going to be fighting with Marvin Jones Jr. for playing time this upcoming season. But then you've also got some veterans though. Mark as well with Byron Turner Jr. that is someone that has always needed to add on some size there, but you see the natural ability. He actually saw a really big increase in his abilities and development latter half of this season. Like he was buzzing a ton going into bowl prep against Georgia. So interested to see how he makes those strides at spring camp, because that would be huge if Florida State can have Patrick Payton, Byron Turner, and those those three other transfers that are also in that room. You feel really, really good about it. And so, yeah, you lose Jared Verse, and you also lose Gilbert Edmond, the former South Carolina defensive end. But, looking at this room, though, there's still even some younger talent with Jaden Jones. You've got Aaron Hester, who I think is a little undersized for his position. I think that's what's hurting him the most, of seeing him get some playing time and upping the depth chart for himself. And then there's also Dante Anderson, another guy that has had to add on more size. Lamont Green Jr., too, legacy guy who is just natural speed ability, but is someone that is concerning to me a little bit right now at the moment on adding size. I think his injury from last season is delaying him. So there's some projects in here. There's certified talent. And then there's newcomers that are fighting to be on the opposite side of Patrick Payton is probably the best way I'd explain this.
Yeah, and you touched on Daryl Jackson, of course, because of the NCAA. We didn't get a chance to see him until the Orange Bowl, but he comes in from Miami, and he played a lot of football for the Canes there before coming to Tallahassee. And it was kind of disappointing to see him put on the sideline and not able to participate until January.
This group right now, to me, is top two most concerning, and might be a shocker when we're talking Daryl Jackson and the hype behind him, and also Joshua Farmer coming back for another season. That's what you got right now. And most of your experience, yes, Daniel Lyons has had a lot of snaps. That's fine. I understand that. But at the position where he's going to be a 2 deep, he could potentially be a starter just in case something goes down. He's going to get a lot of rotation reps with Daryl Jackson, Joshua Farmer, KJ Sampson, newcomer, not a whole ton of experience whatsoever right there. Hearing good things about spring from him, that's fine. But experience-wise is bigger to me. And then you've got Grady Kelly, Colorado State transfer coming from over there. Outside of that, though, that's it. Those are all the names. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 2 of those being solidified starters, obviously, but it's not like last year where you had a handful of these guys in there and Florida State felt really comfortable. I just think this is something that we're going to be keeping a close eye on after spring camp and what they do in the transfer portal if they decide to add in some more experience in here, because right now that room is just extremely way too thin outside of Joshua Farmer and Daryl Jackson. Yes, Daniel Lyons has shown us some strides there, and he has experience. So if you want to go Josh Farmer, Daryl Jackson, Daniel Lyons, that's fine. But that's 3 defensive tackles. I like having 4 guys in total, and I think 2 with what you lost this last season, also to the transfer portal as well. Dennis Briggs moving on. I believe he's now at Illinois. I think that was a tough loss for this room, and Odell Higgins. So this is one that concerns me, just like on that offensive side with the tight end room. There's got to be some answers here, and you got to hope that Daryl Jackson and Joshua Farmer can stay healthy. If not, and this is what you've got, I don't see this group. This would be the amount of names that we have going into the 2024 football season. I'll note that. But if it were to be the case, Joshua Farmer, Daryl Jackson go down, it's really concerning to me, really concerning. And, Florida State's got to do better there on the recruiting trail and try to do better too and the transfer portal. This can't be the case. And I don't think it will be, but man, if it is, and they're going into 2024 season, it's concerning. It certainly is concerning for this defense and as a team as a whole.
But you said the 2 magic words in there, and that was transfer portal, because for the last 3 football seasons, of course, Mike Norvell's done an outstanding job. And I would
Yeah.
argue, even though the numbers have been bigger at places like Colorado, done the best job of anyone in the nation. And so if we're sitting here 3 years ago, I think it's been pretty much 3 years, and you're talking about a position group in the spring being like, oh man, it's shaky, it's thin, we don't have the coaches are just working with what they've got.
Yeah.
I would expect Norvell and company to be pretty aggressive post spring in the transfer portal.
Yeah, they should. And one of those guys, like you were noting, Daryl Jackson, coming from Miami, got to see him just for a little bit there, and the Orange Bowl game. I don't count Jack, towards what we saw with Daryl Jackson there. I've heard tons and tons of good things just off of some former players, and some interviews there that we've had. Just the way this guy competes in practice is just a different animal, and the weight that he holds it. I've got to pull it up, but Daryl Jackson, I think at plus 320. I don't want to say 330, but that's the initial number that's coming to me with the weight that he brings. The way that he has 6'5", 330. So yeah, just stick with my brain here. 6'5", 330, one of the most athletic big guys on this team. Matching that with a disruptive force up the middle is going to be really fun to watch with Joshua Farmer. These are two really fun guys to watch. We know what Joshua Farmer brings. He brings a lot of violence. He disrupts. He tosses cats. He sends them to the ground, and that allowed a lot for like Fabo and Joshua Farmer, or both Daryl Jackson. I'm just kind of combining these guys into a futuristic realm whenever Florida State kicks off the season against Georgia Tech and Ireland, just tossing guys around. These are really physical animal defensive tackles. So you love absolutely what you have here. And I'm really excited to see Daryl Jackson just off of the hungriness. Didn't get to play last year due to the NCAA's BS. He's a hungry guy, and Mike Norvell and the staff making sure that Daryl Jackson doesn't seek out any other places, because there's a lot of schools too that how it is in transfer portal now. There's a lot of chatter, there's a lot of offers, a lot of NIL. They wanted to solidify and make sure that Daryl Jackson and Joshua Farmer, they had that two tandem going into this season. And there's just tons to like about those two. And you think of Florida State defensive linemen, you think of violent human beings, big boys that can disrupt and can allow for those defensive ends to get around the side, or you just come in and you just eat everybody alive. I think of Darnell Dockett a little bit when I think of Daryl Jackson, and that right there, at least for my I won't say older FSU fans, but a little bit before my time, my dad's time, if you're hearing some Darnell Dockett, that should get you riled up right there. And match that with the Joshua Farmer, and you already know what you've got out of him. Yeah, those two will be fun to watch. We just got to get some answers outside of those two nasty, nasty players.
We're talking defense here at the Voice of College Football, FSU. And of course, the Noles fielded one of the best in the nation in 2023. Lose a lot, but there's hope that they will bring another ACC championship and college football playoff appearance coming up here in 2024. We got Logan Robinson here from Nole Game Day. That is the place to be on a regular basis to check out everything going on with FSU. And Kalen DeLoach, if I remember correctly, when he blindsided, well, it actually wasn't a blindside hit. It was right in his grill of Cade Klubnik. That was probably the biggest play of the season because Clemson, I believe, was going in for a 2-score lead. Yeah. And that turned that game around, and you beat the best team. And I don't care what the records say. You basically beat the second best team in the conference and take over the conference, and boom, the rest is the rest of the season's history. But he moves on. So Sean Murphy comes in from Alabama. I guess the question is he going to be at that level?
It's going to be not the easiest. It won't be the easiest to match what D'Lo brought, obviously, with his season. I thought he was one of the best linebackers in college football last year with the way D'Lo was playing. Same too, not in the same magnitude, but Tatum Bethune too in the run game. You just saw that too. I just remember going back to the LSU game and what he was doing there, along with his hit on Jaden Daniels. Those two are veterans on that defensive side that just knew the scheme. Really intelligent players, knew where they needed to be. And, Kalen had a really great season, and he's going to be one of the players that gets drafted this upcoming 2024 NFL draft. And so you had DJ Lundy test the waters a little bit with whatever that was with Deion Sanders up at Colorado. He ends up coming on back to Tallahassee. And that's huge for FSU. Someone that has, talk about body change. He's someone, since he arrived at FSU, kind of had more of a wrestler size, had a lot of fat on him. What wasn't in the most shaped guy. Now he's probably one of the most, I would say, most chiseled guys with his size of what he's is like a bowling ball at that linebacker position. And, this is going to be a starting guy that DJ Lundy has deserved. He deserves to be the starter. That's why I was really not understanding the idea of going to Colorado and missing out on the chance to be the starting linebacker in a scheme that you already know and understand, and they just get plugged back in. He was a rotational guy. He got a lot of reps last year, being the third most rep player at that position. So DJ Lundy comes in. You match that with Sean Murphy coming in from Alabama. He's, just the build wise, could fit kind of maybe in that little bit of that Kalen DeLoach role, because DJ Lundy and Tatum Bethune, I thought, were in that same kind of mold, more of that middle linebacker class, whereas the Alabama transfer with Sean Murphy can fit maybe more of that D-low role, and then put him in some blitz packages here and there, and can be out there uncovering some of these tight ends or moving east to west faster. So those two I look at a lot here out of this linebacker room. And then you still got some, I still say youngster, but he's gotten a lot of playing time. Florida State gave it to him last year under Randy Shannon, Omar Graham Jr. Heard a lot of things intelligent wise from him, but it's still getting down the scheme, which is something that was a little concerning last year. Got to see a better understanding of that and where he needs to be on the field in coverage. And Blake Nicholson, someone Florida State really recruited hard from the West Coast. Not coach, but he almost could be, in the way that he did a good job of bringing him in and recruiting wise. But David Ray, Florida State's general manager, had a really tight relationship there with them. This team thinks very highly of him. And he's put on some size as well, and he's going to get a lot of playing time. He actually got some last year, but now going into year 2, he's going to get quite a bit more. And you got some question marks here. You got Justin Cryer, you got DeMarco Ward, Jaden Parrish coming in as a former 3-star, along with another 3-star, Tamir Hickman Collins. So some question marks there on who can take some strides, like a Justin Cryer and DeMarco Ward more specifically, and see what you got with Jaden Parrish and Tamir Hickman Collins. Mark, I'm not classing it with this defensive tackle room, but there is some question marks outside of DJ Lundy and Omar Graham Jr. and even, Blake Nicholson is still not maybe a question mark. We got to see more experience out of him. So, and we'll see, Sean Murphy, which role can fulfill, if he can fulfill, how D'Lo played for FSU. That D'Lo, like you said, biggest play of the season last year against Clemson, and he was making a lot of plays outside of that as well. Was a pivotal factor in Florida State's success defensively in 2023.
DBU, that's a debate for another day. But we know that the legacy at Florida State is among the best in the country in the secondary, and the 2023 edition lived up to the past because they brought it. Got Logan Robinson here, Noel Game Day, breaking down the Florida State roster. We're in the middle of spring practice, so we do this each spring with Logan. Then we turn around and get it together sometime in August to get you set for the season as well. Earl Little comes in from Alabama to play some corner. I see another transfer coming in from Miami in Devontae Brown. It most likely going to be a safety. So take us through the secondary and what you see there.
Probably start in this cornerback room and, try to figure out outside of what is expected. So expecting Azare Thomas to take that next stride, that next step to be your CB2, where Fentrell Cypress is going to come back and take his spot in the slot there. You bring back Greedy Vance. If you think about it, 2 years ago, he led FSU in interceptions there. Really smart player, understands where he needs to be on the field. So Azare Thomas, I think just seeing him take another step forward in what the staff believes he will. Just a really good sized corner. If you think of, I go back to, relating him physical build wise to Jalen Ramsey. This team also too going back last year, Azrae was making some plays too whenever he got in and got put into the game. He's just natural ability type of player. So those are the three, also with Tua, Kevin Knowles, a veteran guy. But, I think of Vance, I think of Cypress, I think of Thomas, your three solidified cornerbacks that are out there on the field. And then you've got some youngsters that are super, 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 exciting to think about and also look forward to, which we'll see some rotation in this upcoming season. Yes, you've got Earl Little Jr. coming over here from Alabama, who's going to see playing time in 2024. But when you talk about Quindarius Jones, Edwin Joseph, even Jabril Rawls, Charles Lester being a former 5-star as well. And like you're saying, Jamari Howard coming over, but specifically what you're able to do in-house recruiting wise with some of these guys like Quindarius Jones, who I'm super, super high on. I don't know how much playing time he will see, but for spring for some of these youngsters, it's kind of where Azrae Thomas was in his second year at FSU. You want to see him earn more playing time. And from what I've heard, Quindarius Jones he's been super, super impressive, along with Edwin Joseph, Jabril Rawls. That's something really exciting to hear about, at least for your cornerback position. And then Florida State, Coach Surtain continues to kill it in that cornerback room. But if you're thinking about a room on the team as a whole, offensively, defensively, it's the whole entire secondary, as we talk about the safeties here in a second. But there's tons to like in the cornerback room. You feel nice and secured a lot going into the rest of this spring camp and going into fall.
So Logan, let's check out the safeties. Akeem Dent, is he back?
Akeem Dent is gone. He didn't get invited to the combine, which was crazy, absolutely nuts. He should have been a 13th player invited, but Akeem Dent gone, former 5-star, actually was fully, healthy for the most part this last season, and it showed. It really did show, and I think he's going to be someone that actually ends up getting drafted. But yeah, they lose Akeem Dent, which is a tough loss for FSU in that safety room.
So what does the safety room look like? I mentioned Brown coming in from Miami. He was a decent player. He got a lot of snaps for them.
Yep. So for here, it's one player that I've been high on for a while now, really high on, is Shyheim Brown. He's a guy that matched over there with Akeem Dent last year, but he can go east to west, more of a bigger size, lengthier size than Akeem Dent. But Florida State's looking at him not only as a pivotal factor on the field, but as a leader. Talking about Mike Norvell, he's someone that he pinpointed as being someone that's vocal. We hear about it at practice as well. He's making sure guys are in the right spot, also being vocal, making sure we're staying on pace at practice. Shyheim Brown's going to take a big step and helping build this defense. When I'm looking at guys like Joshua Farmer, Daryl Jackson, DJ Lundy, and Patrick Payton, I'm looking at Shyheim Brown as being one of those players. He's going to be someone that leads that entire secondary, and I'm really excited for him going into his season this next year. And then you got a youngster with Conrad Hussey, who had a lot of flashes this last season. Once he gets down a little bit more of the scheme, you just naturally really love that he was able to get a lot of playing time as a true freshman last year and made some plays. Yeah, had some times ups and downs, but that's a true freshman. I would way rather see that. Florida State still went 13-0, and he still had the ups and downs. That's you want to have all these experiences, get them in that way. In year two, a lot of those things are cleaned up, and you've got a well polished player, and that's what Florida State and Coach Surtain prepped Conrad Hussey for. Super, 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 super excited for Hussey and what we see in him in year two. Ashland Barker, we saw some good signs from him. Wasn't expecting a whole ton this last season, but the staff really felt like he was reliable in the film room and also understanding the scheme early on. And that's why we saw a lot of Ashland Barker out there. KJ Kirkland, another youngster going into his year two, physical build wise, really impressive, natural ability. And, we'll see how much playing time he gets in 2024. But this is another big spring camp for him to make some strides so he can be someone that's in that rotational room in case, we have some things going on with Hussey or Barker or Brown. Like you said, Devontae Brown, we'll see what ends up going on there, former Miami transfer. But the staff sees something, and it feels like it could be a good, decent depth piece, I think, for the most part. But I'll be honest with you, the secondary room under Coach Surtain, we named off some names last year that we expected to get a lot of playing time, and there were some that we did, we counted off that actually got more playing time, like a guy with Ashland Barker. Didn't think too much of what we would see from Conrad Hussey either, but these guys jumped in and got a lot more earlier playing time than maybe we had expected. So that's why I don't really want to count out a whole ton of these guys. Coach Surtain, he knows what he's doing. He envisions the talent really well and what he wants to bring into his scheme. And this room as a secondary, Florida State, the whole DBU talk, Mark, you and I have had a nice chat about it back in the day with Jason as well, because we were talking Ohio State and everything. But I don't know if there's Azrae Thomas, I think, is in that realm, but Shaheem Brown, Florida State's trying to bring back that DBU to themselves. And, they lost Jarian Jones, lost Renardo Green. These are pivotal losses, along with Akeem Dent in that secondary. Those are some, it's crazy. Those are some really significant pieces for FSU. And the fact that I'm not in complete, like, oh my gosh, what does FSU do? What do they do now? It just goes to show you how well Coach Surtain, Adam Fuller, and Mike Norvell have done a good job of reloading that secondary.
One of the most fun things for me to watch in football is a defensive back, and it's usually a safety, but that can run from about 20 yards away and just lower the boom on somebody. So as soon as you mentioned Renardo Green, that's what I thought of.
Yep.
Who's going to bring the physical mentality in this secondary?
Physical, my initial reaction, I was saying, I think Shaheem Brown is one of those, even though he started last season. Shaheem Brown is one of those guys. Conrad Hussey came down and dropped the hammer a little bit last season as well. If I'm going cornerback, though, and I had to pick in one of these, I'm honestly going to go. I'm going to go a little Earl Little Jr. We're going to see some Earl Little Jr. in 2024. It's going to be hard to kind of jump in and take some spots from Thomas, Cypress, and Vance. But I'd like to go Earl Little Jr. Bring that Alabama boom a little bit. Yeah, but Renardo Green. That kid loved to hit any smaller guy too. But number 8, when you wear the number 8, which now Azrae Thomas is going to be wearing, you got to come down Loco Ocho style and lay I'm not going to say it, but lay someone out. Just a nice PG version, but lay someone out. Jalen Ramsey style, Derwin James style. That's what you think of, when you think of a little bit of DBU at FSU. Physical ass come to pop your head off, and someone needs to come down and do that. So we'll see who wants to take the bait on doing it.
Logan, it's a family show, but you're allowed to cut loose once in a while. So don't be afraid. Don't back off. You're good.
I appreciate. You're gonna have to use a lot of sensors. I know James Coleman though. I know it's hard to. You got to have a whole set of sensors for him. But I'm trying to keep it. Got to keep the ad rates up, baby. Got to keep the CPMs high.
That's it. I'll take it. I appreciate it. Well, yeah. Ryan Fitzgerald, that guy had a few hiccups in his career, but it was nice to see him pull it together in his final season and hit 19 of 21. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, really happy for Ryan. Really happy for
special
him.
Teams. Just any thoughts about special teams, coverage units, return units? Those are always kind of up in the air because there's just so much to work out with the rest of the depth chart that obviously a lot of young guys get their opportunity on special teams, but punter, kicker, return units, punt coverage, all that business. I'll just kind of throw everything at you and get your impressions across the board.
Yeah, no, so everything stays the same, on your kicking side with everything. Luckily, Florida State's going to bring back the Aussie from Australia. Mastromanno is going to be coming back for another season, along with, like you were just saying there, Ryan Fitzgerald. Super happy for Fitzgerald this last season. I think for the biggest thing was just going back to his original technique from, I believe it was 2022. 2021. He switched up things in 2022 that kind of hindered him a little bit. And then he admitted, I changed some things up going into fall camp of 2023. Felt a lot more consistency there as well. And, at FSU fans should be excited to have Ryan Fitzgerald back. And, it went to show too how many losses kind of came from that, not having those points added up on the board kind of hurt them at times in 2022, but just to have his consistency in 2023 was great. So shout out to Fitz. And then, to me, really what stands out the most is what Florida State's going to do at punt return and also kick return. And we saw kick return last year. Who was it? Keon Coleman, kind of a surprise. And I wouldn't be shocked if we see a couple surprises too, just depending when we get more into fall camp. They're going to test a few things this spring. We'll have more solidification on who's going to take that punt return spot. Jalen Lucas is someone that is most likely one of your favorites to do so, along at the kick return position, just because of his success that he was able to do at Indiana. And can things get clicking there for Deuce Spann as well? Trey Benson used to be at the returnees position. What do they do there with him? I think there's a handful of guys that they're shuffling around this spring camp that we're going to find out. But, Mike Norvell takes these special teams very, very important, and not even offensively, I think of returnees, on the offensive side, but too, whenever you're going into kick block, going to field goal blocking, but punt blocking, they take this extremely seriously at the practices. They spend a good amount of time every day out there working on some schemes, and also too making sure they utilize their best talent that they can get down the field and punt return and kick return. So I think it's highlighted off of Fitzgerald and Mastromanno coming back. Mastromanno having a great season as well last year. That just puts Florida State in good positions of flipping the field and putting their offense in a good position, and putting their defense in a really good position to make plays and not allow a lot of free yardage to the opponents.
Logan Robinson, Nole Game Day. And you know what the deal is now, folks. Now that you've watched all the videos, and if you're just watching this one, keep in mind we were covering all the positions, both sides of the football. So check out all the videos. So you're almost an expert. You'll complete the expert level if you go to Nole Game Day on a regular basis. Check out Logan and the staff there. And of course, Wednesday night with us at the Voice of College Football at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. And then just keep it rolling, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, Nole Game Day. Logan and the guys talking FSU football.